Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone, also from the education department. I'm really happy to see faces across departments. I am Dr. Lulu Shi. I'm a lecturer in the education department, and I was a postdoc here in the OI before that, so kind of have connections to both departments. But today I am not giving a talk, I'm chairing the session, and I would like to welcome Professor Anush Margarian here. And we're going to talk about, or she's going to talk about a topic called Human Capabilities in the Age of Artificial Intelligence and Learning Machines. And Professor Margarian is a full professor and endowed chair in the Department of Digitalization at Copenhagen Business School. And this year, she's also a visiting research fellow here at the OII. The talk is going to be about 30 to 40 minutes, and then we'll have a short round of Q&A. Just to be aware, the event is being recorded. So if you want to have your hands up, just be aware this is recorded, and it's going to be online later on. I think that's all for me to say. And now, Anush, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Shi, for that very kind introduction. And hi, everyone, and thank you for being here today. And hello also to everyone online. So let me start by sort of briefly introducing myself. So my field of research is broadly learning and technology. A central theme in my research is this idea of digital mediation of learning. So understanding how human learning across different contexts and domains is mediated by technology, and how technology and learning practices co-evolve in a kind of dialectical, co-evolutionary way. And so over the past 25 years, I have published research on a range of different topics within this broad theme across different domains of learning, like higher education, workplace learning, and across different organizational and industrial sectors, but mainly in the energy sector, in the finance sector, and some research in the healthcare sector. And also in the recent years, I have looked at learning practices in new and emergent forms of digital work, like digital labor platforms and crowd work and that sort of domains. So in the past few years, my interest has shifted towards a more kind of AI-mediated work, learning and skill development in AI-mediated work, and I've published some recent papers and a couple of major policy reports for EU agencies on this topic. And currently, I'm working on a book on AI and human capabilities, and that empty box there is that because the book is in early stages of development, and I don't want to jinx it by putting a name on it. The book project is funded through a grant from Carlsberg Foundation, which is one of the main Danish industrial foundations that funds research across sciences. And unfortunately, not all of those 460 million Danish kroner went to me. So I was one of the 190 recipients across Denmark. And today, I'd like to discuss and share some work in progress ideas based on my preparatory research for the book. My talk will be largely conceptual, so I'm not going to present any empirical data or any findings, but just a set of different ideas based on my current reading of the literature and my understanding of the kind of the problem space. So I'll begin by highlighting some key challenges to the skills agenda that arise from the development and embedding of AI in the workplaces, but also in the society more broadly. I'll highlight some gaps in the current discourse on AI and skills. And by discourse, I mean both the academic literature, but also the policy discussions and the media coverage of this topic. And then I will discuss the importance of the broader concept of capabilities rather than focusing solely on skills. In addition, I'll discuss some different approaches to framing AI, which kind of emphasize agency and agentic capabilities as kind of central concepts in this field. And I will also highlight some emergent AI specific capabilities based on my reading of the literature. And then I'll outline some possible directions for advancing research on AI and capabilities moving forward. But before I begin, let me introduce you to Aidan and Aiko. They are two new interns at a marketing agency called CodeWord. Aidan and Aiko are not traditional interns. They are AI-powered bots. In its announcement, the marketing agency explained that it expects these AI interns to join its 100-person team. And Aiko will join the design team. Aidan will work in the editorial team. The responsibilities of these AI interns will include creating slides, editing photos, drafting concept sketches, designing icons, writing content for the social media sides of the company, and analyzing marketing trends and news. The performance of these AI interns will be evaluated, and the company envisages promoting them to more permanent roles. They are listed in the corporate directory, and they're going to receive a salary, which the company will donate to some causes. The company stated that Aidan and Aiko will be integrated into the company's existing AI infrastructure, which already includes different AI-powered platforms. But unlike the traditional automated marketing tools that the company uses, their focus will be largely on creative tasks. Although the company claims in its promotional material that these are the world's first AI interns, in fact, vendors' promotion of AI tools under the guise of digital employees is not a new phenomenon, and it has been well documented in the literature and critiqued in the literature. And I think Gemma Newland's paper here also touches it, one of the recent papers touches upon this and critiques this notion. So this example is interesting because it raises some really important questions. So how is the introduction of such AI technologies reshaping the organizational processes and workflows? And importantly, what skills, what capabilities, what mindsets and dispositions human workers need to work with such systems? What would be required of Aidan's and Aiko's human co-workers, managers, clients to work productively with these systems? Do we as a society accept that these essentially technological tools are anthropomorphized to such an extent? And what are the implications of this sort of anthropomorphism for human well-being, for productivity and human dignity in the workplace? And to many of these questions, we as a society, as educational institutions and organizations do not yet have clear, evidence-based and well-thought-out answers. So economists have shown that technological advancements historically require specialized higher-level skills and abilities and generate new skill demands and skill gaps. And economists have termed this historical pattern skill-based technological change. This historic pattern applies also to AI because AI does generate skill gaps and does require new skills. AI challenges the skills agenda at least three levels. At the individual level, workers are faced with the need to enhance their own skills to succeed in today's workplaces, but also in the labor markets of the future, where AI is said to play an increasingly more central role. Research from, recently published research, including from our own group and from my collaborators, shows that individual workers who are at the forefront of AI use and adoption engage in an extensive amount of self-directed and self-regulated skill development, but they tend to rely very little on formal educational organizational provision, learning provision, or skill development provision, which in any case is lagging behind. At the organizational level, the AI adoption has been uneven, and partly due to the impact on organizational capabilities. A critical barrier has been shortage of skills to develop, implement, effectively use AI, but also to identify the kind of the business cases where AI could be a useful augmentation to existing organizational processes and business purposes. And at the societal level, educational and training institutions and policymakers have struggled by and large to keep pace with these transformations and tended to respond in kind of reactive, piecemeal, and technologically determinist ways. But a key kind of issue underpinning these challenges at all three levels is a lack of robust empirical evidence on what actually are the relevant skills that are needed in AI-mediated world. So there have been some large-scale enterprise surveys and studies by the likes of McKinsey, OECD, the European Commission, and some, of course, research, academic research that attempted to articulate some AI taxonomies. But these studies generally, not all of them, but generally, they tend to be based on kind of a conceptual, hypothesized, projected, expected conceptualizations of skills rather than on empirically based data from people who are actually at the forefront of using technologies, end users, frontline workers, and so on. So in my reading of the literature, there are several kind of gaps in our discourse, and I review these gaps in detail in this paper I published in Big Data and Society. But let me just highlight a couple of these gaps. The first issue is that the term skill is often used too loosely. It's almost as a catch-all term to denote to a wide range of different phenomena, concepts at different levels of granularity. So sometimes the term skill is applied to what in essence are specific AI technologies. So people would say ML skills. But what does it mean to say ML skills? Because development, conceptualization, implementation, design of ML will involve a wide variety of different knowledge, skills, qualifications. So it becomes meaningless in that sense. Similarly, the term skill is often used to denote specific AI technologies, techniques even, such as SQL, Agile methodology, or Python. Again, it's kind of yet another kind of level of granularity. Sometimes even entire occupational fields and research fields, such as data science or robotics, would be denoted as a skill. But in fact, these are aggregates of skills, knowledge, dispositions, and qualifications rather than a single skill. So this kind of lack of conceptual clarity muddles the discourse, but it's not only of academic concern, but when we don't really know what it is we're talking about and at what level, this can lead to ineffectual policy and solutions that are not well designed. And the second key gap in the current discourse is that we generally, there's more kind of focus on the technical skills alone, so computer science, skills needed to develop and design these technologies, but the broader kind of human capabilities that are needed to use these technologies and generally to function productively, happily, and ethically in a world permeated by AI are not generally well understood. So things like self-transformational, interactional, creative, and emotional capabilities, these are generally not discussed in the literature. So what do I mean by capabilities? Of course, the notion of capabilities is conceptualized differently because it's studied by different disciplines. So in economics, capabilities mean one thing. In organizational and business literature, they mean a slightly different thing. In sociological literature, there's yet another meaning. In educational learning sciences literature, views capabilities also differently. My starting point are capabilities as understood within educational learning sciences. And these are understood as encompassing skills, but not limited to skills. So capabilities comprise a range of core skills, transversal skills, and also dispositions and mindsets that empower individuals to function productively, ethically, and happily in a world of AI. So to be clear, I'm not referring to the sort of capabilities approach, which is advanced by scholars like Amartya Sen and Martha Nussbaum, who examined specifically environmental and infrastructural capabilities and how these enable individuals to develop their own capabilities. And my interest is very much in the individual capabilities as experienced and perceived by the individuals themselves. In the literature, capabilities are often closely linked with the concept of agency. And the concept of agency involves the ability to make choices, to act on one's choices, and to generally exercise control over one's life. In AI discourse, the notion of agency is also rather prominent. And machines are regularly and routinely imbued with agency in this discourse. And broadly, there are three distinct and competing ways of framing AI technology. And each of these different framings reflects a particular conception of human and machine agency. So the first perspective is this idea of AI as a competitor, or what I term the displacement thesis. And in this framing, AI is positioned as a challenger, as a threat to human capabilities, and the idea of human supremacy is AI supremacy over humans is promoted. In this view, AI is seen as potentially surpassing human intelligence, challenging human autonomy, human employment, and even in some accounts, human existence is challenged by AI. And here AI is portrayed as an opposing force that threatens to disrupt human roles, human values, human achievements, especially in fields that are traditionally associated with human expertise, such as literature, art, music. The second kind of way of framing AI is this idea of AI as a collaborator. and I termed that the kind of the benevolent equal thesis. And this approach tends to frame AI as a partner to humans, and this is kind of exemplified in terms such as human AI collaboration, hybrid intelligence, human-machine augmentation, or even some characterize this as human AI cross-species companionship. So, and while on the surface, but this view aims to counter the kind of displacement narrative promoted in the first perspective by highlighting AI's potential to enhance human capabilities rather than replace them, it still sort of positions AI as an equal to humans, suggesting alignment or synergy between the human and the machine, which I find problematic. And then there's this, so I'd say the first two perspectives tend to be very prominent in the literature, but then there is also the third way of framing, which sees AI as a tool. So unlike the first two perspectives, this AI as a tool framing treats AI neither as a competitor nor as a collaborator, but as an advanced, complex tool or a set of technologies that can support human decision-making and problem-solving across domains. So AI as a tool perspective contrasts with the first two perspectives, which posit AI almost as a subject endowed with agency, an agentic entity. AI as a tool framing promotes the view that human remains the main subject who uses AI as a tool to act on an object in order to reach a particular outcome that the human intends to achieve. So, of course, the claim to agency is foundational to one of the grand claims of the field of AI, which has had since its inception, or as some critics, I think prominently Kate Crawford, characterized as a grand perverse fantasy of creating machines that could rival or exceed human capabilities. And in computer sciences, an agent is defined as any entity that can perceive its environment and act on the environment. So this is a definition from a key AI textbook. So this computational perspective offers a very simplistic, mechanistic, and limited understanding of agency, reducing the notion of agency to mere capacity to act. So it's the idea that if an entity is capable of acting, then it's an agentic entity. But of course, in social sciences and humanities understanding, agentic behavior contrasts with these unconscious reactions to pre-programmed instructions or generally involuntary responses to your environment. An agent in social sciences understanding is someone who chooses, who determines, who acts with intent, and importantly has a will to apply to achieving a goal. So agency is ultimately seen in social sciences and humanities as a distinctly human capability that enables us to transcend the diktats of our environment and to shape our own life circumstances and our life course in alignment with our goals and values. So in the agentic view of human development, individuals are active contributors to our life circumstances, not mere products of them. One of the key theorists of agency is Albert Bandura, and he identifies 4 core properties of agency. The first property of agency is intentionality, which involves the formation of intentions, purposes, plans, and strategies to achieve these intentions and purposes. Each of these agentic properties has kind of agentic capabilities associated with them. And so with capabilities that are associated and central to intentionality are the ability to set personal goals, objectives, purposes, and apply your will to attain these purposes and objectives. And machines lack this level of intentionality. So AI remains an instrument of human goals and agency. The second core property of agency is forethought. And forethought involves the capacity to set future-oriented goals in a self-directed way, and importantly, to visualize potential outcomes of our actions. And these visualizations can motivate and guide our efforts towards those goals. And central to forethought is our capability for self-direction, for anticipatory planning and visualization of our future selves or our future states. Machines lack the capacity for forethought and self-directed goal setting because they cannot autonomously revise, pursue, and set personal intentions and goals. The third core property of agency is self-reactiveness. And this encompasses the ability to take personal responsibility for self-motivating and self-regulating our behavior and our pathway to achieving our goals. And the capabilities that are associated with self-reactiveness include self-regulatory mechanisms such as volitional control, implementation, planning, continuous self-monitoring of our goals and actions. AI algorithms can react to feedback and make adjustments, but these responses are based not on self-reactiveness or self-awareness, but more on response to preset programming instructions. So there's lack of self-reactiveness in machines. And the fourth and final core property of agency is self-reflectiveness. So this denotes the capabilities to examine our own functioning, evaluate the soundness of our thoughts, and discern the deeper meaning of our pursuits. And Bandura emphasizes that the metacognitive capability to reflect upon oneself is one of the most distinct human core properties of agency. So only humans can engage in this kind of critical ongoing self-reaction that is necessary to develop oneself in transformational and self-directed way. Okay, so these generic kind of meta capabilities are not new. They're known from the literature. They've been well studied in the literature, but they're essential across learning and skill development across a variety of domains, but they're very central also in relation to AI as well. But in addition to these generic metacognitive capabilities, there are also some novel and AI-specific capabilities which are emerging and have been described in the literature. And let me mention only a few kind of illustrative examples of this. For instance, prompting or prompt engineering has become a distinct new skill in the context of specifically LLM-based AI technologies, where crafting effective prompts can greatly influence the quality and usefulness of the output. And prompting is an instance of AI capability which Dougherty and Wilson named intelligent interrogation. So the ability to frame questions effectively for AI. Doherty and Wilson also highlight another capability they termed judgment integration, which entails applying human judgment when AI output is uncertain. In another example, this notion of AI literacies has been proposed, and this includes capabilities that enable individuals to critically evaluate AI, to understand what AI can and cannot do, to use AI effectively for collaborating and communicating with other people, and understand the steps and the principles involved in machine learning and deep learning algorithms that underpin AI. So there are just some examples of various typologies of AI that are emerging in the literature. But a key issue with these typologies is that while they offer a valuable starting point in thinking about AI-related skills, they largely lack the grounding in empirical data, particularly from end users, and because they tend to be either based on conceptual hypothesized kind of conceptualizations, or based on data that is solidly collected from experts, for example, AI developers or AI researchers. The AI literacies typology, for example, is devised based on interviews of computer science faculty across different universities. It's a very narrow perspective on AI skills. So finally, to conclude, moving forward, how might we approach the empirical study of AI and human capabilities? And I've outlined a research agenda in this Big Data and Society article there, but just let me mention only a few potential directions that I think are important. So as I alluded already, we need more comprehensive empirical micro-level data on AI-related capabilities so that we can develop typologies and taxonomies that capture both the novel AI-specific skills, but also the well-established capabilities that remain relevant in AI context. A second, and importantly, we need to use both direct and indirect measures of capabilities. Direct measures are, examples of direct measures are expert ratings or end-user self-reports, typically obtained through interviews and surveys. But indirect measures are kind of traditionally derived from wage data, from occupational taxonomies, from data on educational attainment, and these are now increasingly augmented by new methods from computational social science, for example, data mining from online job postings, CVs, and digital labor platforms, and the use of machine learning to infer and detect gaps in these data sets. So these are, no doubt, the indirect measures are very valuable, but we also need to supplement them with more kind of direct measures, including data collection from the actual actors who are actually using these tools and finding themselves at the kind of the forefront of AI adoption. And the third point is, we know from the literature that relying on single method studies risks producing skewed conclusions about skills and capabilities. So we need mixed method approaches that combine cross-sectional studies with some more kind of longitudinal panel-based time series studies to allow for deeper understanding of how AI-related capabilities evolve over time and across different contexts. And finally, we need to integrate both the descriptive and observational kind of studies with more causal research designs that can reveal both the causes and consequences of AI-driven transformations in human capabilities. And I'll stop there, and I would welcome your questions, observations, comments, critique. Thank you.
Let's take questions until 1. We're going to take a mixture of question in the room and from online, but let's start in the room. I saw one hand up over there.
Yeah, thank you so much for your very insightful sharing today. Really helpful for us. So my question is, as you mentioned, we are lacking many empirical data on like AI and mobility. So can you tell us the reason why we lack that kind of empirical data? And from my experience doing research with AI, because during my thesis in the bachelor program, I conducted a qualitative research on how teachers construct their identity in interaction with AI. And one thing I find very difficult to design the research is like the involving nature of AI tools that teachers using. And it's very difficult to design, especially like longitudinal studies, because you know the AI is constantly evolving and it's different like day after day. So can you share more of your thought on how we can conduct effective research on, as you say, AI and human capability?
Yes, thank you. So your question had 2 parts, and I asked first why we lack empirical data. Well, I think it's partly because it's relatively early days, and this it's a very hot topic at the moment, but I think the work is still in development. It's not to suggest that there aren't any empirical studies. There are, but we still lack them because generally there's interest at conceptual level. So I think that we are evolving towards potentially more kind of empirical studies in this area. And then you mentioned some issues with conducting this kind of studies, and it's if I, from what I picked up from kind of your kind of description of your brief description of your study, of course. One of the issues, because AI is evolving, but I think generally in research, it might be beneficial to be very specific about the kind of the object of the study, rather than talking about AI very generically. I mean, AI is not, AI is not. I want to share some slides. AI is not. Never mind. I think AI is not one specific technology. It's almost kind of, I think someone called it an archipelago of different technologies pitched at kind of different, areas of application. So I think in research, what is helpful is maybe to be specific and with what technology are you actually investigating? What is kind of your unit of analysis? What is the object of the study? So there, and then you can then trace the teacher's use of that particular technology. So that would be, I think, one kind of approach to addressing that question.
Thanks. Should we take the next one from online, and then I did see you. Okay. We have one question from Priyanka Pandey. She says, you mentioned that you're not using Sen's or Nussbaum's approach to capabilities, but your take on capabilities is largely grounded in human agency, which is the approach both Sen and Nussbaum do adopt towards human well-being. How is your take on capabilities different? Is the ability to make a choice not how you see agency or human capability with regard to AI adoption in organizations?
Yes, thank you for this question, Priyanka. It's not that my approach is radically different from Sen and Nussbaum, but if you so I think if you remember the 3 kind of levels that I outlined, my interest and my conception is the individual level. I think Sen and Nussbaum and others and the whole capabilities approach, they highlight the importance of the environment, how the individual functions in the environment and capabilities of the environment help or hinder the individual. And I take that into account. I think it's very helpful to understand not just the individual, but the individual in the context and the impact of the environmental, infrastructural barriers. So my research is informed by those environmental infrastructural capabilities perspectives, but it is not the starting point. So what I said is that it is not the starting point. The starting point is individual capabilities. It's understood within the kind of my own field of learning sciences education.
Great, thanks. Over there, and yes.
So first of all, thank you a lot for the talk. I'm personally very happy that such great work is going on in Denmark. So I've been working a bit with kind of the question of agency, but more from the, I guess, AI perspective, in particularly for like large language models and like what you would generally term foundation models. And I've found it very difficult to like really say whether like how they work internally. So whether a large language model would be capable of self-reflection or not capable of self-reflection, have these similar skills, because we're dealing with extremely complicated, like extremely complex models with billions of parameters trained in kind of obscure ways, like a proper black box. So I guess I was, and there's luckily kind of a burgeoning field of people empirically trying to study these kind of things. Has a lot of methodological issues, but I was curious of like, how do you think you can make, so like, how can you validly make strong claims about things that AIs will not be capable of when we're dealing with these very, very complex models that we frankly don't really understand how work?
Okay, this is, I kind of respond to this question in fine detail in my paper, which I referenced here, not this one, but the where I argue about why the notion of machine learning is a misnomer. So I actually, in that paper, I actually go through some key perspectives on human learning. What does it mean, based on our understanding of what does it mean to be self-reflective? What does it mean to learn generally? What are the general learning processes? So I go through that and then compare very carefully with the various approaches to machine learning, the various models, the supervised, unsupervised, deep learning, and so on. And I show how there is a disparity between the computer science kind of conceptualizations of learning in the context of these machine learning models and how we understand learning, self-reflexivity, transformational change in the context of, and the kind of the central point of contention there, I think, is the computer science perspective. Yes, it's a complex model. No one doubts it. We may not understand all the fine nuances of that model, but as I show in that paper, the kind of the information processing perspective that is central to this computer science understanding of learning and this is a very limited a way of understanding. Human learning is not just information processing, it's much more than information processing. Information processing is a complex process and it's part of what humans do when learn, but that's absolutely not the only approach. So, and then you said, how do we know if the machines will not? We don't know, but so my argument and my critique is based on how the machines, it's my understanding of how they are now, and then I would suggest that we can talk about that, and so I really do respond to some of those questions in that paper.
We're gonna take again one from online, and then over there, and then over there. From Ellen Young. Thank you so much for the talk. I am wondering, in your opinion, what's the relationship between digital literacy, data literacy, and AI literacy? Do you think they become more separate and different as AI develops?
Yes, so this is this is almost, in the way this is listed, because there's an almost historical evolution in the development of these concepts and digital literacies. We used this concept, you know, for some decades already, as technology started to be used more and more in education and so on. And then when big data started coming about, we started talking about data literacy. And then we're talking about AI literacy. So there's also very interesting. So what I would like to say in relation to this, my first reaction to this would be like they are interrelated, obviously, because they represent the different stages of the development, and digital skills are part of AI literacies, but they're not the only kind of type of literacy that is essential. So almost, yeah, I think there is a historical evolution in this, and they are interrelated and probably built on one another. So was that the question? Is there really do you think they become more separate or different as AI develops? No, well, I don't know. I think they are very intertwined. They're very closely intertwined, and they're almost different levels. And I think they should be part of this course and the part of the studies, and look at them as interrelated.
Thank you. We had a question over there.
Yeah, so I was sort of interested in building on a little bit of that agency and sort of AI as a tool, and the way that you're sort of thinking about those concepts and delineating them. Because while AI might lack agency at the moment itself, isn't the issue that it can affect human intentionality either consciously or, more concerningly, subconsciously, so that actually when you think about it, it's more of a parallel to the impacts that we're seeing with social media, or even, you know, subliminal advertising, those sort of impacts, as opposed to, you know, AI as a tool proper, where I think of, you know, a straight tool that you would use in the workplace like Excel or Word. I mean, it really is completely neutral. Like, there seems to be a difference in its ability to actually impact agency, where we don't necessarily understand or can measure what that looks like.
And you would, okay, and so would you posit that impact on intentionality is different to other types of technologies that can?
Yeah, it's like I come at it from a professional services perspective.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, you know, consulting firms, law firms, there is a difference between using something like Excel or Word, where really it is completely neutral, it is a tool, versus, you know, if you're a lawyer using AI to interrogate, you know, your discovery and for it to come up with suggestions of areas. There's like, I think humans are very suggestible. So I think sometimes we overblow our ability to truly have agency or self-actualization, because it's like, how much are you actually interrogating, you know, the suggestions that you're being given? So actually, is your intentionality being affected day in, day out by the inputs that you're receiving, which is different from something like Excel. It's not, I mean, it's not giving me prompts, it's not doing anything to actually affect the way I'm shaping the issue.
Yeah, I see what you mean, and I think that's yeah, a point well taken, and which probably kind of highlights even more the importance of enhancing the intentionality capabilities in humans, like emphasizing them more, and you know, and in education,
Yes,
in learning provision, to kind of strengthen
critical thinking. I think, yeah,
and have ability to think about what your purpose is, and what you are doing towards achieving our purpose, not being taken in by influence, but be influenced by any means, you know, but be critical and be self-aware as to what exactly you're being influenced by, what kinds of ideas, what kinds of technologies, what is helpful to you as an individual towards achieving your goals, and what is completely unhelpful and must be discarded. So while I would say, while AI kind of amplifies the issue in terms of intentionality and some of these other capabilities, and it also forces us to kind of to strengthen
Yes.
those capabilities.
Yeah.
It's generally, I think AI is a tool, but AI is also an interesting phenomenon that maybe forces us to think more deeply about what it means to be human. So
Yeah.
maybe that would be the lasting
Yeah.
impact of AI rather than AI taking over us. Maybe it will encourage us to think about how can we be more human.
Yeah. Yeah.
With more renewed understanding of some of these generic capabilities. Yeah, thank you.
Maybe just adding one point to that,
Yeah.
if I can. I think we should be careful about thinking about Word and Excel, because they also use AI technologies, right? So they're also very suggestive. If you, for example,
you've got Copilot.
yes, also without even. So I
Yeah.
think also already the inbuilt autocorrect system has its own sort of algorithmic problem in it, right? So yeah, it's quite wild.
Yeah, so AI is built into in more tacit ways into more kind of legacy kind of technologies and technologies we don't necessarily think about us.
It becomes very invisible, and
Yeah,
I think that's a really
exactly.
big fallout. Yeah.
Let's take if we can, 2 more questions. So one from online and one I think over there. Yes. We have from Maha Shaikh. Thank you for your talk. You spoke at length about agency, but some would argue that unsupervised machine learning algorithms could or do have agency. What is your perspective on that? And related to that, do you think we need a better concept to explain agency for AI, but perhaps for broader technology as well? Agency is a concept rooted in human reflection, and we may struggle to align that with any technology. How should we then understand decision-making abilities where AI surprises even the developer that designs it?
Yeah, no, I disagree with that. And again, I responded to this question earlier, and I refer you to this. Thank you for raising this, but I respond to this at length in the paper on where I argue about why this is not the case. And no, I also don't think that we need to expand the concept of agency for AI. And I think that as currently conceptualized, the machines do not have agency, but perhaps we should come up with a different term to denote what it is that they do. That is probably not agency, but yeah, so
yeah. Thanks. Okay, maybe last question, if we're short, maybe one other. Yes.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much for the talk. I have a question about AI literacy, and it relates to the question that Jonathan in the back asked earlier. And that's about how to choose the correct level of abstraction for thinking about some of these AI capabilities. So to take a concrete example, say hallucination with AI models, there's a academic perspective on why models hallucinate that gets quite into the technical weeds. And then as a tool user, I think there's a shift in perspective. I program often, and so I use co-piloting tools where hallucination is something I might consider, but I imagine if I was a case lawyer, I'd have a quite different conception of that capability and how to be literate with respect to that capability. So for your paper on ML as a misnomer, which I haven't read, but I'm curious how you think about the level of abstraction and how to bring in the kind of technical underpinnings without bringing on like way too vast of a literature or being specific.
in the case of hallucination, I mean, I use LLMs as well too, and I come across hallucinations. And I think what is necessary there is still your broader understanding of the domain in which you are using it. For example, I'm asking ChatGPT to come up with key thinkers in field blah blah blah, and it comes up with made up references, and I know it's not right because I have a broad kind of, not a very in-depth understanding, but then I have an interactional kind of expertise in understanding where it's right or wrong. So again, this emphasizes the need that you need to understand what those hallucinations might be, and then you need to couple that with your own understanding of the domain and how the machine output fits the, you know, fits the domain and your understanding of the domain. If you don't have an understanding of the domain, then you will have no way or little way of ascertaining the veracity or the accuracy of the output that you get. So that's specific to the example, and I guess you're asking me about more generic, kind of more general.
Yeah, well, I'm curious about how much you can separate what the computer scientists are saying, because, you know, I don't need to know how to forge a hammer in order to use one, so they're quite separate abstractions I use. There's a lot of mathematical literature on what hallucination
You don't need to understand the steps involved in generating these hallucinations. You don't need to understand why the hallucination, why the thing hallucinated, but you need to understand the domain in which you're using the output for to understand.
But maybe just to build on that, I think it's really interesting because now there are a lot of third-party vendors who are, you know, building additional working features of these models. So, you know, you do see things like the LawLex tools, which are saying, you know, no hallucinations, like we've been able to crack, you know, accurate answers. So for those professions that are impacted by that high degree of accuracy, it's kind of interesting because when we contracted with OpenAI, they kind of sold us this enterprise licensing, sort of saying, oh, actually the hallucinations are a feature, not a bug. It kind of shows why it's a great ideation partner, you know, so you can kind of, pitch them, pitch them away.
Okay.
All right, I think we are kind of out of time, so maybe no more questions, but Anush, do you have any last words to share with the crowd?
No, just to thank everyone for their for your comments and for some kind of insightful points, which I definitely will be thinking more about and reflecting on. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you so much.